So I'm gonna make me wider than normal furrow here to put my spinach seeds in. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Thursday, November 16th here in South Georgia. It's a little wet outside. Finally got some much needed rain, but it's also the middle of November, which means we need to get our spinach planted. So we're gonna try to plant some spinach in the raised bed garden today. Before we can plant some spinach, we gotta make some room and find somewhere to move all these potato onions. So things are pretty full out here in the raised bed garden right now. All these beds are planted, so there's not a whole lot of room to work with, but I would like to plant some spinach in this bed. Just got to get those onions out of there first. And this is going to work out well because I need to move these potato onions anyway. We planted these bulbs about a month and a half ago. Wasn't long ago, and they have absolutely just taken off and already started to multiply. Now, up until this fall, I had never grown potato onions before, but from what I can tell, they grow a lot like those Louisiana evergreen shallots that we've been growing for a couple years now. And so I think I can do them just like I've done my shallots, split them up and move them to a bigger spot. So a while back, that's what we did with these Louisiana evergreen shallots. We didn't move them to a bigger spot, but we did divide them up and replant them. So we basically took a bunch that looked like this right here, 4 or 5 or more plants, split them up, and then we planted them even thicker right here, and these are already dividing again. So my plan is to take all these right here, divide them up, trim them up a little bit, and move them right over there to one of these in-ground garden plots right beside our short day onions that we planted on the last video. And just as a side note, our short day onions that we planted just 6 days ago are looking great. They're already growing, looking really good. Virtually no transplant shock with these at all. And as I've told you in the past, that's one of the many benefits of growing your own onion plants. You go straight from a seed tray in the ground. If you got enough water there with the drip tape, keep them nice and happy, they hit the ground running. You don't have to wait on them to wake up. If they've been out of the ground and dried up a little bit, these take off super fast. But anyways, back to the task at hand here. I told y'all when we planted those short day onions that I left enough room right here for one more row because I was pretty sure I was going to move those potato onions right here. So I came in here earlier today and got this row ready. We made a furrow, put a healthy helping of that coop grow down in the furrow, put some drip tape down in that furrow, covered it up, and we've got it set up for a nice little double row of these potato onions. So to get these ready for proper relocation, we're going to do them the exact same way we did those Louisiana evergreen shallots a while back. We're going to just pull up a clump here. With this clump, we planted 1 bulb, and we've now got 3 plants. Going to trim these up a little bit here. About like that. Trim up the tops a little bit, clean them up. I'm also going to trim up these roots a little bit like that. Then we'll take our clump of 3 and just break them apart. Now we've got 3 onion plants we can put in the ground. All right, so I had every intention of pulling up and splitting all those, but as I kept pulling and dividing and filling up my bucket here, I got to thinking, well, maybe I've got more onions than I've got row over there to plant. So I kind of stopped pulling from that second row, just clean out this first row. We've got enough room there to plant a little row of spinach. We'll see how far we get with this bucket over there, and we'll pull up a few more if we need to. Some of those had 5 or 6 onions per bunch, so it filled up the bucket pretty dang fast. So we're gonna do us a nice little double row here. These little perennial onion plants are really tough, so we don't have to take a whole lot of care when we're planting these things. I think I'm gonna put them about 6 inches apart or so. So we'll plant this side of the tape right there and come over here and plant this side of the tape as well. And we'll see how far we get with this bucket. If we need to go get some more plants, we will. All right, so we had enough for our double row there, got those planted nice and thick, even had a few left over. I'll ranch those off in a little bit, take them inside, and we'll enjoy those over the next week or so. So these that we just cut and transplanted are going to look pretty rough for a couple weeks, but after that, after pouring some water to them, they'll take off, they'll start growing again and start multiplying again. Now, I don't know how far north you can get away with doing this late in the year, but I'm pretty confident I can get away with it down here. It's starting to feel hot again now that that front has moved through. So we still got some warm weather left, and these things should be just fine. And this may turn out to be a good thing because we can compare those over there that we just cut and transplanted to these right here that we're just going to leave and let continue to grow. So we'll be able to tell, hopefully, early next year if that over there was worth doing or if we should have just left them here in the first place. Either way, now we have some room to plant some spinach. And to be honest, this one little row of spinach, about 5 foot long, planted as thick as we're about to plant it, will probably be enough spinach for us, considering all the other stuff, all the other greens we have planted out here. So it might work out all right. I do got a little bit of prep I need to do here before we drop some spinach seeds. One thing I'm gonna do is trim up some of these overhanging onion limbs here so they don't get in the way of my spinach bed prep. Just gonna clean this up just a little bit here. Then I'm going to pull up my tape and my staples so I can amend this just a little bit here, get that tape out of the way. And then, as we always like to do, we're going to put down a little coop grow here, little pre-plant fertilizer to feed the spinach once it gets up and going. And we'll scratch that into the soil a little bit, get that nice and incorporated there. Get those weeds out of there while we're at it. Then we'll put our tape back down, get it nice and straightened out, get some staples back on it, and we'll be ready to plant. Now, much like lettuce, spinach is really easy to grow once you get it up and going. It's one of those veggies we've talked about in the past that doesn't really give us any bug issues. Sometimes we can get some fungal issues on it, some powdery mildew, stuff like that, but the bugs really don't bother it for some reason. So it's pretty maintenance free once you get it up and going. But the issue a lot of people have with spinach is the whole getting it up and going part. A lot of people try to plant spinach too soon in the fall when the soils are still kind of warm, and it just doesn't germinate well in warm soils. So much like we wait until the soil temps get into the 70s to plant our carrots, we like to wait until the soil temps get into the 60s to plant our spinach. That's why we wait until November when things have cooled off even more. If you plant it too soon, you're not going to get really good germination, and spinach is pretty cold hardy, so there's no worries for us planting it this late in the year. Now, the variety I like to grow is called Sun Angel, and we've been growing this variety for several years. I've actually had this bag of seeds for a year or two now. I hope they still germinate well. But this is a really good variety because it handles our wild winter temperature swings. We could be 80 degrees on Christmas. And so this variety handles going from cold to warm, those crazy 30 to 40 degree temperature swings we get on some days during the winter. Another variety I've grown in the past that I really liked is called Avenger. That was a good one from what I can remember. And then a lot of people up north like a variety called Bloomsdale. It's an older variety, but it's supposed to be really, really cold tolerant. So a lot of people up north grow that variety. I've never tried it, but I hear it's really good. Now, when you plant spinach, you want to plant it really thick, a lot like you do carrots. That's one reason we don't transplant spinach, because we could never transplant it as thick as we want to get it. We also want to plant it kind of a band like we do carrots. So I'm going to make me wider than normal furrow here to put my spinach seeds in. So this is not like corn or beans where we're putting one seed after another in a linear row. We want to scatter seeds all amongst this furrow here, get a nice dense planting of spinach. So we've got us a nice little double row made there with two relatively wide furrows. Now we're just going to start scattering some seeds. No such thing as planting this stuff too thick, in my opinion. We just want to sprinkle these seeds heavy along both of these furrows. So that should be pretty good there. We don't need to cover these too much. Just a light little covering. Get some of those weeds out of there. Just put a little bit of soil on top of those seeds. And then I'll come back and pack that down a little bit. Get some nice seed to soil contact in our bed there. So if you've ever direct seeded mustard greens or arugula, something like that, plant your spinach the same way. Just wait till a little later in the year to do it once those soil temps are in the 60s. And again, much like lettuce, a lot of times that pre-plant fertilizer is going to be all that spinach needs to thrive. If you've got some relatively healthy soil, put down some pre-plant fertilizer, and that's going to be all the juice the spinach needs. Now sometimes, depending on how long the spinach lasts, sometimes we get really hot in early spring and it will start bolting then. Sometimes it grows well into spring, just depends on the year. Sometimes if it's in the ground a long time, I may have to give it a little agri-thrive, but we can usually get 3 or 4 harvests off of it before we even have to think about feeding it again. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and let me know in the comments below what's your favorite variety of spinach to grow and when you like to plant it where you live. As always, you can find that Coop Grow fertilizer and our other products on our website at lazydogfarm.com. And if you missed the video when we planted those potato onions and talked about those a little bit, you can find that right here. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.